So you already own a Steam Deck, but there's a new kid in town. Should you buy the Ally if you already own the Steam Deck? Let's find out. Games run better on the Ally. They run smoother, at a higher resolution and with higher graphics. Take Far Cry 5 for example, one of my favourite games of all time. Honestly, it runs quite terribly on the Steam Deck. You lose a battery percentage per minute and it overheats and the fan comes on and it sounds like it's going to take off to the moon. That was the first game that I tested on the Ally because I know how badly it runs on the Steam Deck. And on the Ally, it runs with less fan, higher resolution, higher frames per second. It looks gorgeous and it just doesn't seem to phase the Ally at all. So games that aren't really optimized for the Steam Deck run brilliantly on the Ally. And games with anti-cheat software like Destiny 2 and Call of Duty, some of my favourite shooter games, don't play on Linux SteamOS because of the anti-cheat. Whereas on the Ally, you can play it straight out of the box without any issue. But does all that extra power really mean that you have to disregard this device, which is absolutely brilliant in its own right? I mean, the Steam Deck can play almost everything, and it's a heck of a lot more affordable, and if you already own it, the Ally isn't exactly a cheap upgrade. And also, with the SteamOS on the Steam Deck, it is such a sleek experience. It's very console-like. You can turn the device on, you can get into your games very quickly, all the updates happen in the background so you don't have to worry about them, and it just is very sleek and well thought out. The Ally, on the other hand, has all of the Windows 11 jankiness, all of the updates. It's not optimized for this sort of form factor. It's still sort of optimized for a keyboard and mouse. There's a lot to be said about a device that just works. And speaking of jankiness, I thought it was ridiculous that the Ally came with things like Microsoft Office built in, and a TikTok app, and chat app, and email, and all these things that really highlight that it isn't just for gaming. SteamOS is built from the ground up for the gaming experience, and it really shows. One of my favourite things about the Steam Deck is you can just press the power button, and even if you're in the middle of a game, it will go into sort of a stasis mode and you can put the device down and pick it back up and just carry on as you left off without wasting any time. That certainly doesn't happen half as smoothly on the Ally. But on the Ally, you can play all the games, and I mean all the games. You even have access to the Xbox PC Game Pass and PlayStation Plus cloud gaming. You can indiscriminately download games that you own from EA, from Ubisoft, from Epic Games, and it all gets pulled together really seamlessly in the software within the Ally. There's no going to desktop mode, there's no messing around with Proton, there's no following guides online, there's no circumventing anti-cheats. Things just work immediately. And because of the extra power that the Ally has, the docked experience is so much better. You get to play games at higher resolution, you get to play them at higher frame rates when you're on the TV, and as an added benefit, it doesn't sound like it's going to take off because the fans are a lot quieter. It can draw a lot more power than the Steam Deck when it's plugged into the mains, so the desktop experience, so to speak, the docked experience is absolutely so much better on the Ally compared to the Steam Deck. And if you do like to play on the TV at home, the fun doesn't stop there with the Ally. You can use eGPUs by plugging them into this proprietary dock at the top. And then when you get home, you can get more graphic power out of your device and get the best of both worlds effectively. But the battery life is much better on the Steam Deck. That is just a fact at this point. It may change in the future when the Ally gets tweaked and improved upon, but at the moment, even if you're playing lower TDP games or higher, the Steam Deck seems to be better for battery life. I think it's down to the SteamOS just being a little bit less processor heavy versus Windows 11, and at the end of the day, this is a handheld device and battery life matters. Also, the Steam Deck is a whole year ahead in terms of community development. There is a guide for everything. Anything that this device can do has been figured out by the community and shared. The Ally, being a brand new device, doesn't have that community support yet, and who knows if it even will. I mean, I think it will because it's probably sold incredibly well so far, but there's something to be said for stepping into a community that already knows everything about the device that you have, and you can tweak and get everything out of it that you want to straight away. We're a little bit behind so far on the Ally in that respect. And no comparison would be complete without mentioning the trackpads. The trackpads are so handy for when you have to navigate in desktop mode on Linux. And also if you play strategy games like Civilization, for example, it makes the gaming experience so much better. Like so much better. There's some people that literally won't buy the Ally because it doesn't have trackpads. But because we don't have trackpads on the Ally, we have a slicker, smaller and lighter device, and it is a handheld after all, so I think every little helps in that regard. I do think the Steam Deck is really chunky, and this is a little bit more streamlined. It's also lighter as well. This is just over 600 grams versus 670 grams on the Steam Deck, so overall we get a lighter, thinner and better device in terms of ergonomics. I think ultimately a lot of little things in the Ally add up to make a better device overall. And particularly for me is the screen. Obviously you get better resolution and a better refresh rate. I think that's something that people cover a lot. But one thing I haven't heard spoken about too much is the color rendition on the Ally screen. The Steam Deck only gives you 63% of the sRGB color space, whereas the Ally gives you 93%. So all of your games are going to look richer and more how the developers intended it out of the box, just because the colours are better on this screen. And on top of that, you do get anti-glare built in on this device, and on the Steam Deck, it's only on the top 512GB model. The Ally screen is also brighter at 500 nits versus 400 nits. It's small, but hey, if you're fighting on a sunny day, that is going to come in handy. I also love the RGB lights. I know that's a really small thing, but I do think it's a very nice and neat way for you to customize your device. You can even change the colors of the RGB lights for each game to make it match, which I think is really cool. And this is the first handheld really where I've thought I'm not going to buy a skin for it. I think it's quite well designed. I really like it. It's a little bit gamer boy-y, particularly with this like go faster stripe at the back. If you're wondering about this, this is my Deckmate attachment. I have it on the Steam Deck as well, so I can attach my battery and a stand to it and stuff. It's really handy. I'll link that in the description. The design I think is lovely out of the box. We don't need to faff with it. I also love the fingerprint reader. This gives me a little bit of extra security and I know my device and my information is safe. And I absolutely love that the fans are quieter. That is a real deal breaker for me because the Steam Deck, you get a lot of funny looks sometimes when you're out and about if you're in a hot environment or if you're playing something that's a little bit more power hungry like Far Cry 5. It's just a nicer experience to make everything quieter on this. And also, frankly, it's just showing off now. The Ally even charges twice as fast as the Steam Deck. You can get a full charge on this in just an hour and a half. But Windows 11, man. I don't think I've explained quite how annoying it is to use Windows. I spent the first 3 hours of owning the Ally just doing updates. BIOS updates, Windows 11 updates, ASUS updates, all of the updates. And I do love that the Steam Deck keeps all that under control and in the background. It is so, so handy. And I have to say from a user experience, I love SteamOS a heck of a lot more than Windows. I'm going to put them down now. I almost broke both several times during filming this. Please subscribe. I think you should not get the FOMO. I think if you already own a Steam Deck, you've got a device that is incredibly capable and can do a heck of a lot. Can it do everything? Not quite. And for those things where it's sort of a grey area, there is a lot of workarounds. If you're willing to put the effort in, you can get a hell of a lot out of the Steam Deck. I do love the Steam Deck, and while the Ally might be a little bit better here and a little bit better there, overall there is such a crossover with both of these devices that you would really have to think about what you would use in which scenario. Maybe you would take your Steam Deck out and about because it has slightly better battery life at the moment. Maybe you would use the Ally as like a desktop experience, or whatever. So don't get caught up in the FOMO. However, if you love technology like I do, I mean, I have an Xbox and a PlayStation, I don't need both. Why do I need both? Some people just like gaming as a hobby, and the Ally is the best Windows handheld ever made. And if that excites you, then get it for your collection, get it to see what it's about, and really get the most out of the device because it really is very, very capable. And I think it's only going to improve over time. This is one thing I wanted to talk about in this video. There's been a lot of discourse online about the bugs out of the box, but the first 3 months of the Steam Deck release was buggy as all hell. It didn't come out of the gate shining and glistening and perfect. And we have to remember that we're comparing a device that is brand new on the market. So I think what we need is a bit of patience. I think within the next 3 to 6 months, the Ally is going to be an absolutely amazing device. Whether that comes from community developments or from ASUS themselves, or a mixture of both, I think all the kinks will be ironed out, and don't judge the device by what is being said in these weeks, because it is all subject to change, and I think at the end of it all, it's going to end up a brilliant, brilliant device that will last us all for years to come. So at the end of the day, I don't really know. Buy it if you want it and you have the means to do so. I love it and I regret nothing, but it's not essential. Don't feel like you're missing out if you don't get it and you already have a Steam Deck. Speaking of the Steam Deck, watch this video next, which is my love letter to the Steam Deck and why I think it is for everyone.